Welcome to The Starting Point, a program produced by Speranța TV, which is Hope Channel Romania. I'm Adrian Bocăneanu, and I have the pleasure and the privilege to interview men and women from around the world and to ask them about their starting point in life, in education, in a career, and most importantly, in faith and service. I hope you will enjoy these stories of life and will find here strong reasons to set a new starting point for ourselves. Welcome to the Starting Point. This is the name of the program.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
And you are at the starting point, actually.
Yes.
Just 1 week ago, you have been introduced as the associate pastor of our church.
Yes.
So welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
What are your feelings? What are your thoughts at this starting point in your, probably the most important so far in your life?
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of excitement. I've been studying for about 3 years now at Southern Adventist University, recently graduated in December. And while studying, you just kind of feel like, I want to do something, I want to do something, I want to do something. And then now I'm here, I'm like, all right, great. Now what? And so as I've been spending more time this past week, and so things have kind of been snowballing. I've been picking up more and more stuff, attending a lot of meetings and getting to know people. So,
yes.
Yeah.
And probably during the formation at the university, you have also had some practicum. Probably you have opportunities to preach. You have attended some board meetings and other activities of the church. You have been exposed to most of the
they do a very good job of exposing us to the different aspects of church life, of board meetings, finance meetings, visitations, and Bible studies as well. They have a checklist of things that they want to see us do before we graduate. That way we're not totally shocked and surprised when we jump into it.
And of course, you have been a member of the church for practically all your life. And
yes.
So, based on your experience, practical experience during your training, do you have a preferred area of work? Is preaching, is visitation, is Bible studies,
Sure. Yeah. I'll tell you what, when I first started at Southern, I really struggled with preaching.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you are not the only one.
But, like, I look back on my first sermon, I go, oh dear. No. But as time has progressed, I'll tell you what, I really enjoy preaching. There's just something about it when the Holy Spirit falls on you, and all that preparation and hard work that you put into studying and preparing, and when it comes to fruition, and afterwards when people come and say, wow, that's exactly what I needed, thank you, that just takes me back, like, and then also I really enjoy giving Bible study as well. Bible study is actually what got me kind of moving along this path to ministry. And then another area of ministry that I really appreciate is visiting with members, with the people who are already going to church, and just getting to know them, because they have some amazing stories.
Absolutely.
And so much wisdom as well. So those are the areas of ministry that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah, besides visiting members for about 40 years. For this program, I have interviewed already about 300 persons.
Wow.
So I have heard some stories.
Yeah. I'm sure you've heard some amazing stories.
Absolutely. And I can't stop. I mean, it's my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And returning to preaching, is any one of your recent sermons coming up. Would you like to share the core, the main idea with
Yeah,
our
there
viewers?
was-
Yes.
there was a sermon that
Or you are going to preach next Sabbath.
I am going to be preaching
For the
this
first
Sabbath,
time, yeah,
so
in our church.
I'm excited for that. But the last sermon I preached
Yes.
at Southern for class, we were being introduced to different styles of sermons, and
Do you have a preference in style?
no, I think it was challenging at first, but once you put in the work into it, and there's so much benefits in having a variety of different styles.
Yeah.
But
So
the
this
narrative
last one,
style,
the
that I
narrative.
did was on Exodus 33. And the main points of the sermon is that God can't be where he's not the center. And the second main point was the faithfulness of one brings God to many. And that the Israelites, as we know, they often rebel against God.
Yes.
But Moses intercedes on their behalf to bring God back into the presence of their camp, because God basically told Moses to move his tent outside of the camp. And so although he was still they could probably still see the tent, he was still not at the center of the camp where he should have been. And so just seeing that amazing prayer of intercession on behalf of Moses was just amazing. So that's where that idea came, that the faithfulness of one brings God to many, brings God back to many. And it made me think of what Jesus did for me as well.
I was thinking on that, because also, as Paul says, by the obedience of one, the whole humanity can be saved.
Yeah, and that's how I concluded this sermon, was how, because I was, for preaching class, you're not speaking to a bunch of members, you're speaking to other preachers.
Yes.
So
not very comfortable.
It's a little intimidating, but the message spoke to them in that the reason why we preach is because of Jesus' faithfulness.
Yes.
And how he brought us to God.
Yes.
And so we want to walk as he walked, and we want to be like him, faithful, so that we may bring others to God. So
thank you. And, I can't wait to hear you preaching, and I wish you a wonderful growing experience preaching to our church.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But behind this starting point, there are many other starting points in your life.
Yes.
So let's begin with the beginning.
Sure.
Share with us a little bit about your early memories. What kind of a family did you grow in? And,
sure. Yeah, I grew up as an Adventist Christian. Basically, my entire family is Adventist, and they. I grew up going to church, but it wasn't something I really enjoyed.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of church was that? Small, large, rural?
It was a decent-sized church.
Yeah.
It was fairly large. There was people my age, so I could relate with them. But
so it was not specifically related to something missing in the church.
Yeah, it was more just me, and also the way I used to view it when I was that age was that it was just Saturday was a day that I couldn't do anything, and so it was just miserable to go. I think Sabbath school was my favorite part of the whole worship experience on Saturday, because that was the time I could interact with people my own age. Although I didn't really know much of the Bible, but it was still good to have that that fellowship with one another. but I grew up very close to my grandparents as well. So we lived in the apartment building that they owned. So they lived on the first floor, and we lived on the third floor. So they were always just down the stairs. I could go and see them. But my grandfather always was trying to get us kids into the Bible and into reading it and just getting to know God and Jesus. And
he was doing that with grace and love.
Oh yeah. With grace and love. Like it was, I never felt like overwhelmed by it. He always tried to do whatever he could to get us to read the Bible. I remember where I was in his office and we were talking. And he was telling me, if you memorize the Beatitudes, the first few verses of Matthew chapter 5 on the Sermon on the Mount, if you memorize those, I'll give you $5. Wow. Yeah, and as a kid, that's a lot of money.
Sure.
So I'll tell you what, I went upstairs and I memorized it. And then I came back down. And I got my $5. And then
so that became the first beatitude.
Yeah, exactly. Then he also would tell me, have you ever thought of reading a book of the Bible? And I'd be like, Grampy. That's what I call him. My grandfather was Grampy. Grampy, they're too long. And he's like, well, Mark's actually really short. It's only 16 chapters. And I was like, 16 chapters? Wow. And he's like, yeah, you could do that, couldn't you? Yeah, I could. And so just seeing him always just encourage us to read the Bible, or always showed an interest in us kids to get to know Jesus, helped later on when I was interested, because now I knew who to go to. So.
You say us. Do you have siblings?
Yeah, actually I have a twin.
Oh.
Yeah, and another brother. So my twin looks pretty much like me. So you may not know if you're interviewing me or my twin. But no, he's up in Massachusetts, so you don't have to worry about that.
So you put some distance.
There's some distance.
To avoid any.
So we look alike, but we're not identical. And my other brother looks nothing like me. Yeah, so we took it to one extreme or the other.
What about temperaments? With your twin brother, you have similar temperament?
Oh yeah. We like if we were to interview, we'd pretty much have same mannerisms and things like that. He loves the Bible as well. He studies prophecy. Like I don't know anyone else who studies it that much. Maybe scholars and professors of universities and things like that. Yeah, he knows more than me. But it's just, it's really cool seeing how engaged he is in studying.
And by profession, what is he doing?
Oh, he's an electrician. He's a licensed electrician. Yeah, so he does he works quite a bit. Yeah.
But he also puts lots of time in studying the Bible, the prophecies.
Yeah, his free time, like a lot of people like to go out somewhere and do some activity. His idea of fun is reading a book. But hey, that's perfect. If that's good for him, so.
Yeah. So returning to you, you felt the burden of limitations and restrictions, especially related to the Sabbath, but also your grandpa was a bright figure representing the bright face of Christianity in the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah, that really helped, because when eventually God reached out to me in a dream. Then I began to be really serious about studying my Bible and getting to know Him. And I think also just even going through the motions of going to church also just builds up the habit of going to church, so that when I was really into it, like I was already going. I'd just go,
Yeah, yeah.
and I would really enjoy the services more because of now I'm interested.
Sure.
So
What about school?
school, yeah.
Did you like school?
Oh, school was good. Um, my mom, she made sure that us kids did well in school. So I remember when we were young, we had speech problems, and then also growing up, I really struggled with English, the subject of English. But a lot of the other subjects were pretty much easy, math especially. But a lot of time went into doing homework and into studying. I say my mom was kind of like a dictator when it came to schoolwork because, and she owns up to it. She's proud of it because of how we turned out and how we did later on in our furthering our education. But during those moments when we were young in elementary school and middle school and then beginning of high school, she always used to check our agenda to make sure we had all our homework done. She used to, if there was a test coming up, she's like, all right, do you know it well enough to get an A? And we'd be like, yeah, we'll be fine. And she's like, all right, if you don't, though, you're going to lose TV for a week or so. And that sure motivated us to go back and study. But she also would test us too. So she spent a lot of time in just making sure that we succeeded in schooling. And because of that, I developed really good study habits so that when it came down to I was in charge of making sure I got everything done. And when I transitioned to college, man, college was easy. My mom was harder than college. So, I mean, she really helped with education-wise, so that when I went off to college the first time, which was to study construction management, it was very, very easy.
We'll reach there. So what you said already that you had some difficulties with speech and English, but you were quite good and you found it quite easy to do math and things like that. What were you thinking at that time in terms of a future professional career? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I always wanted to go into like construction because I would see my grandfather working around the house, doing either painting or fixing something around the house. And then my grandfather on my dad's side, he's just amazing at just like taking junk and refurbishing it, and it's like brand new. So just always seeing that, I was,
you liked that,
yeah. And so then
responded to your boy nature.
Yeah. And so when I went to high school, I ended up taking carpentry. It was a vocational high school. So one week we had academics, the other week we were in our shop doing carpentry work.
Excuse me, this kind of schools, vocational schools, as you said, 1 week classes, one week practical work, are they quite common here in America? Or?
They're not as common as just regular public schools, but they do have several vocational high schools.
It was good for you?
Oh yeah, at first I fought it. My parents were the one that wanted to get me to the school, but I didn't want to at first. And they were like, all right, if you try it for a year and you still don't like it, we'll send you to just a regular public school. But I really liked it.
In 1 year, you were already converted.
Not even a year. I think maybe like half the year or something like that. Because.
Do you think you had enough of academics?
Oh yeah. They still covered quite a bit.
So it was not a problem for you after that to to go to college because you have been in a vocational school. You had the prerequisites and you had the understanding and the ability to...
Yeah, I actually found college easier than high school. I don't know why. Most people don't have that experience,
Sure,
but I did,
sure. So you, quite soon in life, you consider that construction will be your life.
Yeah, I thought I was just going to stay in carpentry or do something like that. And
So you finished the vocational school, and what was next?
Then I went off to... No, I wasn't working just yet. I went off to college right away to get a degree in... it was called Industrial Technology with a focus in construction management. And so I went there, and I was working at McDonald's just to sort of just help pay the bills while I was in school. And that took about it took 5 years, just because when I graduated, I had no debt, which was a proud achievement of mine, because a lot of people don't.
Very few people are like that, and they have to pay.
Pay back a lot of debt. So when I did graduate, though, that's when I went into construction. And that was, so I first tried applying for construction management jobs.
Yes.
But they first wanted me to get experience in the field before actually going up. And it made sense.
Sure.
And that's what I ended up doing. I ended up working for a framing company for a little bit, and just getting to understand the ins and outs of that company as far as what they did. And the company was Colt Builders, and they specialized in retirement living centers. So we basically just worked on the structure of the building.
Yes. Well, earlier you have mentioned a dream.
Yep.
Tell us more about that dream.
Oh, sure.
I mean, everyone dreams. Everyone has dreams. But it seems that you attach some special significance to that dream.
Oh yeah. No, this was not an ordinary dream. This was no ordinary dream. It was one of those dreams that it felt so real, like as if we were, like you and I are talking right now. And it happened on a Friday night. Man, it's amazing the things that you can remember, because I remember everything about this dream.
What was your age?
I was around 13 years old, give or take a few years.
Sure.
But I remember going to bed that night, and just all of a sudden, I was in a house, a magnificent house, by the way, which was beautiful. Like you could tell I was wealthy because of the house that I was living in.
It was the house where you were living. I mean, in the dream, it was your residence.
Yes, it was my own residence, and I had a house on the waterfront with a nice balcony with glass doors leading out to it. It was like picturesque type stuff, and then the Jesus came back. Just like all like the different signs, like an earthquake, different disasters were happening, and turn on the TV and news reporters were reporting it live, like what's going on and things like that. And being a Christian, I was like, I know what's going on. Christ is coming. This is amazing. I can't wait to go.
So you were happy.
Yeah, I was so happy to go. And so I remember looking out on my balcony over to the city that was just over somewhere along this waterfront or whatever. And I remember seeing just people going up into heaven, like beams of light, just going up to see Jesus. And as I was standing there watching, I was like, yes. And then I was like, hold on. Wait a second.
I'm still here.
I'm still here. yeah, I'm not going up. What's happening? And then all of a sudden, like in a blink of an eye, an angel appeared right in front of me, and all he did was point. And I went over to the direction that he was pointing to in my house, and it was over to this piece of furniture, some bureau or whatever, and I ended up pushing the stuff, like clothes and clutter that was just on top of it. And underneath all that was just a dusty old Bible that hadn't been used in a while. And at that moment I knew why I wasn't going. And that was the end of the first part of the dream. And then the second part, right, complete opposite. I had nothing. I was just...
Excuse me.
Yeah.
It was immediate. The second part was immediately after the first.
Immediate.
No awakening or...
Nope.
No.
Just continuous.
Continuous. Go on.
It was continuous right after that first part of the dream. And like I was saying, I had absolutely nothing. It was the complete opposite. Where in the first part of the dream, I had everything that you could imagine. In the second part of the dream, I had nothing. I had basically just the clothes that I was wearing, and even those were worn down and had some holes in it. And I guess you could say I was kind of like homeless, just a bum on the street. But I was with a group of people, just in the street, just talking. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but I'm guessing based on what happened next, I was just sharing with people the salvation that I found in Jesus. Because the next thing that happened was, again, Jesus Christ came. And I'll tell you what, the feeling of weightlessness, of going up to meet Jesus, wow, that takes your breath away. It took my breath away in the dream. And I was just going up. I never saw Jesus. I wish I had. That would have been amazing, but I never saw Jesus. And as I was going up, I was in heaven. And it was just absolutely incredible. But things took a turn. And that, you know how Satan is bound for like 1,000 years in the millennium, but somehow he broke out of his chains. So yeah. So he was in heaven, and so we had to basically, a group was formed to go find him and just put him back. I know.
Commando.
Yeah, I know. So I was part of the group, and so we were just going throughout heaven and different buildings and looking for him. And so I ended up being the one that found him. I remember opening up the door, and it was just this really dark figure, just crouching down. And when I saw him and recognized who he was, he got up and ran towards me. And the last thing I remember is this very black face right here. And that's when I woke up. And I woke up like gasping for air. And after that, I bawled my eyes out. I bawled my eyes out because I knew which path of life I was heading. And it was in that first part of the dream. And the very next day, that morning, Saturday morning, I ended up bringing out my Bible into the living room, and I began to just start reading it. And my brothers were like,
"What?
Yeah, what are you doing?" You don't normally do. I was like, "I'm just reading my Bible." And so that was the dream that really, really impacted my life. God really reached out to me and knew that was the only way to get me, like an iron prod, to get me onto the right path.
And that was a lasting, durable impact on you?
Never forgotten it.
Never forgotten.
And I don't think I ever will.
Sure.
Yeah, that was my conversion experience. And it wasn't until later in life that I realized that was my calling to ministry, or at least when I acted on it. I had always had a sense that I wanted to dedicate my entire life to God, but I was always like, I'll just I'll work and do it. I'll work and do it. But I always came back to the feeling that I needed to be solely in ministry. And it wasn't until later, when I was in construction, that I enjoyed the work, but I wasn't happy. I felt like there was something missing. And because of that, it led me to meeting with my pastor. And that led me, man, we are still friends to this day. I still call him up from time to time. Like, my grandfather and that pastor, Pastor J.P. O'Connor, probably the two most influential people on my spiritual journey.
In what ways did this pastor nurtured your faith or confirmed your calling? Can you tell me more?
Yeah, that was, man, it was amazing. Because we were just studying. I felt like my relationship with God was really suffering at that point. So I went and met with him. I talked to him about it, and I said, I just feel really disconnected from God. And we ended up coming together and studying the book Steps to Christ. But the way we went about it is very, I haven't seen anyone else do it this way, in that he took each chapter as literal steps of leading back to Christ. And so chapter 1 is about God's love for you and me. So like, it's very personal. And he's like, all right, you're going to read this chapter for a week over and over and over again. And then we're going to meet and discuss it. And then I'm going to ask you, all right, do you believe this? And if so, then you can go on to the next step.
Very interesting. Yeah, very personal and yeah.
And so after that first chapter, I was like, yeah, okay, I know God loves me. And then the next chapter is the recognition that we are sinners and that we need something more, that we need Christ, we need Jesus. And I think I struggled with that for a little bit. And then afterwards, went to the next step, which is the next chapter is repentance. The chapter after that is confession. And the next chapter after that is consecration, or basically it's really known as the surrender chapter, surrendering all to God. And to make a long story short, I was up and down those steps, the first 4 steps for a little bit, until I finally got to the 5th. And I remember reading it. It was like, I don't know, just a few pages, maybe like 4 pages. And I ended up seeing my pastor before our next meeting, and I said to him, listen, this is going to be easy. This is going to be easy. I've already read it. Like, yeah, no problem. I still remember his face. He kind of just was like, okay. Because he knew. Man, that chapter got me. It made me really struggle and think. Like, I think I was, that chapter sent me back a couple steps as well. And so I think I struggled with that for about a month. And then it came to one time we were meeting, and at this moment, I had told him about my dream already. He had already recognized that I had been called to ministry, but he hadn't let me know. And so we finally came to this crucial point, and we were just meeting together, and he asked and said, Scott, what's stopping you from surrendering all to Jesus? What's stopping you? And I still remember the words I said to him. I said, I'm the kind of person where I'm either 100% in or 100% out. I can't be doing this whole balancing act. And I was like, I knew in my head what I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go back to school and study theology and to become a pastor. And when I knew that and admitted it, I said, I have to go back to school. First of all, two things happened. One is I had a flashback to when I graduated college the first time, where I said, I'm never going back to school.
I had enough.
I said, after I graduated the first time, I was like, I'm never going back. And then I remembered that as I said those words, I was like, oh, God, you have such a sense of humor. Lesson learned. God, you will do whatever you need to. And then then the second thought that came to my mind, not really a thought, but more like a feeling, an emotion of just peace. Like my pastor told me that he saw physically, visibly, just the sense of peace rush over me when I said I need to go back and study theology to become a pastor. It's still one of the best things I ever did was decide to go back and follow God's calling on my life. So that's the reason why he's very influential, because he helped lead me to where I am now.
Yeah, that's a crucial point in your life. Was the second college, was it good for you? Did it fulfill your expectations?
Oh, yeah. Like Southern Adventist University was, oh my goodness, that was amazing.
It was the first time.
Yeah, it was the first time I was in Adventist education. Yeah, it was that was the first time, and let me tell you, wow. Just wow. Like, you grow up and go to public school, and the teachers just begin their class, and they're just there to teach you and things like that. There's not too much investment in the students.
Yes.
But at Southern Adventist University, like, when I attended my first class, they began with prayer.
Sure.
Like, some people might take that for granted, but man, when
for you it was,
I was like, wow, I can be open about who I am, and not feel judged. And then just attending the classes, the teachers for the theology program, the theology department, they all were pastors at one point or another before they can become a teacher at Southern. And what's amazing is that they're not only teachers, but you get the sense that they're pastors because they want each student in there to succeed. They want their students to know God, to know Christ. This isn't just information that they're just giving you, that they really want you to connect with Him through this. And just seeing that, man, I had an amazing experience my first semester, leading all the way up until graduation. Like, I still really appreciate that experience.
Is there any one of your professors that they are standing up, having an outstanding influence?
Yeah. So the professor that really stands out for me his name is Dr. Tryon. His full name is Dr. Barry Tryon. He teaches a lot of the basic courses for the theology program and some ministry training courses as well. And I also had the privilege of working for him as a reader, or a grader, basically. And having that relationship of, first of all, I had, I think 3 classes with him my first semester there. So I got to really know him. I had a class every day with him. And then that was just amazing. He built a very awesome, great foundation into the theology program. And then being able to work with him, because we would have times where we'd talk just like you and I are. and he would give me advice. We'd joke around and think that it just made it an awesome experience. So Dr. Tryon is by far the professor that stands out, just because I got to know him the most.
Yes, yes. We'll change gears a little
Okay.
bit for the last 10 minutes or so. Our church, Atlanta North, has a school.
Yes.
And I wonder, having this late revelation of Adventist education is going to make you to put some of your efforts in the school.
Yes,
Yeah.
I really
You did?
enjoy working with the school. During my time actually at Southern,
Yeah.
I got to be involved with with one of the elementary schools in the area where I taught art.
Art?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the members of the church that I just really affiliated with, and also part of the program was to get involved with one specific church. So the church is called the Dalton Seventh-day Adventist Church, and the elementary school is called Learning Tree Elementary. And when the members found out that I could draw, they were like, we need someone to teach art.
When did you develop this ability to draw?
I had been drawing since I was like
Yeah?
5 years old. Like this, I've been drawing for a while, but
You didn't consider doing it as
it was always a hobby.
a hobby.
Yeah. So that's when I had my first interaction with like elementary
So
school.
how do you use art? What actually?
Sure,
what
sure.
Do you do?
So one benefit of doing an art class, at least coming from my perspective as a pastor, is that they get to see me as not just someone who just teaches about the Bible, but teaches other things that they can relate with.
Yes.
And then I try to bring in biblical principles where I can. So I'll give like a short devotional thought at the beginning of the art class. And then sometimes the projects that I'll have them do will be, how do you share Jesus with others and draw that? Or what's your relationship like with Jesus now? And draw that. Or we take a scripture verse, right? And this actually helps with remembering as well. If you can associate it with pictures, so that when you look at that picture, you remember that scripture verse. So that's something that I did as well. But overall, I think the most important thing is that my presence was there with them, and I got to know them. And so that I could be there mentoring them, showing them Jesus through my actions as well. So being able to teach art class was very, very valuable from my experience. And although it was an extra thing for me to do in school, I still, like, that was my relaxing time. Like, it was so much fun. I really enjoyed it.
Did you also come to look in the history of art, like painting, and to select pictures reflecting, biblical stories or characters? And
So I never did that as part of the class, but I appreciate I love looking at paintings of biblical stories, and whenever I go to a different church and I see a painting or something like that of just of a certain story in the Bible or of Jesus, I'll stand there for a little bit just to look at it, to examine it, and just to really absorb it, because that's just one way that I see I guess the beauty of this world, but also the beauty of the stories, because you can now visually see them, and it really speaks to me.
Do you plan to develop this part of your personality and to continue to use it as a tool, especially for children and also for secular people, because it could be also, I think, a common, a bridge, towards secular people who may be interested in the history of art, but they don't know the Bible. So they look at pictures, paintings, but they don't know the story, they don't know the meaning, they don't know anything about the experience of that painter who chose that.
So I'll definitely. I don't know exactly how yet,
yes.
but I know that my love for art will definitely be used in my ministry, and in that I really like things to look good, and so when I'm actually working on a drawing right now. A church member had told me about this, that he hadn't ever seen a picture of someone in like rags, like clothes that are really dirty and stuff, standing before God and like a courtroom type scene with Jesus behind him as he's putting on his robe of righteousness. And so being able to visibly see that as well and show it to others really puts in their mind that this is more than just words. This is an action, and you can, with a picture, you can feel as well.
Exactly. It's not just information; it's also emotion and.
And one thing as well too. Recently, as I've been just getting to know and be more involved with the school and the kids that go there. I noticed that some of them enjoyed drawing, so I showed them some of my drawings, of course. Just
I'm sorry for not asking you to bring some.
Oh no, it's fine. But I ended up showing them some of the drawings that I've done, and they were like, "Wow, that's incredible! Wow!" And they were like, "You got to teach me," and things like that. And then I showed them the drawing I'm working on. Like for that member that I was telling you about, where Christ is putting on that robe of righteousness, and they were just absolutely taken away by it. It's not done yet, but it's having those concepts, being able to visibly see, helps, and as far as also like the history of like the different paintings that have been done on biblical stories. Oh yeah, I could definitely see that. Whenever I'm talking about a certain topic, I might throw up a picture or something like that so that they might see it. And also, I mean, what's great about paintings or drawings is you can ask people, so what do you see in this picture? What kind of reaction does this promote in you? And that can start a good conversation as well. That can lead to bringing someone to Jesus.
It taps into this beautiful gift God gave us, imagination. Because actually when we read the Bible, the information is very scarce. I mean, a few words, sometimes like a healing miracle. Just a few words.
But being able to visually see it, like getting the scene and the surroundings, seeing the emotion that person must have felt having been healed afterwards, like those are the things that like help me as well when I'm doing sermon prep as well. And one thing that I had to learn was the Bible isn't just a bunch of information as well. These are actual real people going through real experiences, and so there are emotions and feelings just like we have today. And so being able to go, okay, yeah, all right, I have this art side of me, and seeing that expressiveness and the emotion and stuff. So being able to capture that with words as well helps develop a mental picture in people's minds. So not only being able to see it, but also to paint pictures with words as well. So that's something that I'm working on right now, is just trying to get better with that as well. So it all works together.
Wonderful. Yeah. Obviously, you're passionate about it. My last question now.
All right.
I kept the most difficult one for the
Okay.
end. Let's suppose Jesus is not going to return in 20 or 30 years.
Okay.
Just for the sake of the question.
Sure.
What's your vision about what kind of a person, what kind of a pastor are you going to be in 25 years from now?
The vision that I have is still in progress, but what I really want to see is I want to see people working together, integration between the different types of ministries that we have, working towards a common goal. As a pastor, one thing that we're taught is that we're here to equip the saints. And that means my job is to equip the church members that come to church every week. And so my vision is to hear what their visions are. And to empower their visions.
Yes.
And provide guidance on how theirs can come to fruition. One thing that is just amazing is when you hear, like, when other people experience Christ in a powerful way, when maybe their ministry is taking off, or you see someone else giving a Bible study and you see them growing and things like that. It not only encourages them, but it encourages the person mentoring them.
Sure.
As well. So that's the kind of vision I want to see, where I not only sort of help guide the church members, but also new people as well, people who may not have ever heard of Christ or Jesus before, and showing by example as well the possibilities that can happen. It's more encouraging sometimes for me to give a Bible study than the person receiving it. Like, just seeing a life change.
Yes.
It takes your breath away. And you go, wow, only Jesus could have done that. Only the work of the Holy Spirit could have done that. And I got to participate in that. And so that's the vision that I want to see. I want other people to have that experience. And if I can do that by listening to what their vision is, or listening to some ideas that they have, things that we may not have thought of before, let's try it. Let's see if it works. Let's see where God blesses. And so that's the vision that I have.
It's a wonderful vision, and I pray to God that He will help you to fulfill His vision in you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you as well.
At this starting point.
Yes, it's a fantastic starting point, and I'm so thankful that you invited me here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for watching The Starting Point, a program produced by Speranța TV, Hope Channel Romania. Until we meet again, may God inspire and empower us to think right, to live with love and courage, to aim high, and to be strong in hope. See you soon.